The Roots of Success podcast is for the landscape professional who's looking to up their game. We're not talking lawns or grass here. We're talking about people, process, and profits. The things deep within the business that need focus to scale a successful company. From hiring the right people and managing your team, to improving your operations and mastering your finances, we've got a brain trust of experts to help you nurture the roots of a successful business and grow to the next level. This is the Roots of Success.
Welcome to another episode of the Roots of Success podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Cole, and today we have Olin Unruh, owner of Wetlands Irrigation and Turf in Kansas. Olin talks about his journey from buying a small five-figure business in 2010 to becoming a successful seven-figure business owner with multiple revenue streams. We talk about every lesson he has learned along the way, his experience working with coaches and peer groups, and the growing pains of becoming a leader and manager of a thriving business. It's going to be a great episode. Let's get into it.
Yeah, good to be here, Tommy. Thanks for the introduction. Excited to do this with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so first and foremost, what's up with Wetlands? How did it get started, and where did that come from?
Well, it got started in the early 90s here locally in McPherson, together with as kind of a spinoff of a nursery that was here locally. They had clients asking them for irrigation, so the nursery owners started a crew, and after some time, it really had enough work that it kind of spun off to its own company in the early 2000s. It kind of separated out and became Wetlands Irrigation.
Good. So what's the meaning behind wetlands? Is that
so? Just west of McPherson is the McPherson Wetlands. It's actually a wildlife preserve, and that's where the name comes from. It causes some confusion from time to time. We get affiliated with that a lot, but it just was named for kind of a landmark here in the area.
Cool, good. So you bought the company, is that correct? When did you buy it, and how did that go about?
Yeah, so like I said, the company kind of spun off in 2000, and then about 10 years later, 2010 is where I kind of entered the picture. And at the time I was working with a cousin of mine doing auto car detailing. And, I enjoyed it, but it was kind of a pretty limited career, obviously. And I had actually just been, spending a lot of time thinking and praying about starting my own business or finding a new opportunity. And it just, shortly thereafter, a great uncle of mine comes up to me in church one Sunday morning after church. And he's like, "Hey, I've got a friend in McPherson that has this company that he's wanting to sell. He wants to sell it to somebody that, works hard and will take care of it," he said. And you just came to my mind. So I had a pretty strong feeling at that point already that this was meant for me. I mean, it was an answer to prayer. And so really pretty short negotiations and kind of meeting with the owner, meeting with the local rep for materials and things. I kind of said, yeah, let's give it a shot. At that point, I don't think I had ever seen a sprinkler system run.
I was about to say that was going to be my next question.
So,
did you even know what sprinklers were? Right? I mean,
I think I had driven down Main Street in McPherson maybe once and saw water shooting out of the ground. I'm like, cool. What's that? And I had no idea the amount of business and work and kind of opportunity that was in this business.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So what year were you, like 19, 20-ish or something?
I was 19 in 2010. Okay. So I was, I didn't do college. Had kind of been working. I grew up on a dairy farm. My dad, we milked cows till I was 15. And so I credit that for a lot of things. I mean, I learned to love early mornings and, because I had to get out at 5 and go milk the cows. And you just learn that perseverance of like, hey, I don't care what the weather's doing. We have to go get this done. And that's kind of, so 19 and didn't really know what I was doing. I had the business came with one employee, and he worked or kind of /trained me for like 2 weeks.
Right.
And then he went off and started something different. And I kind of pretty quickly, I hired another cousin of mine to help out with the workload. But yeah, it was tough times. I mean, I basically took ownership of the company's cell phone at the time, and it was ringing like the next day with service calls, and he had built up kind of a decent little maintenance contract business with it as well. So, I had like probably 100 maintenance clients already, plus just the normal service calls and spring startups. It was March, and it really just kicked off with a bang.
Yeah, I mean, totally starting fresh and clean from working hard and the dairy farm to irrigation. Like, what was your first step? Like, okay, here's a cell phone, Olin, give me some money, thank you. And then the next day, like, you have to just do the business. Like, I assume that you just basically just did what you can to sort of survive and bring in some food for the table, correct? Just anything and everything you could do.
Obviously, I was still living at home, so I didn't have the financial responsibilities that I do now, of course, and so that obviously helped. But it was from day one, it was just like, hey, I have no option. These people are calling; they're expecting Wetlands to show up and service them, and it was like a crash course of here's how you glue a pipe, and here's what a sprinkler head looks like, and how you replace one, and I don't remember. Like, I know it was all just little paper invoices, like your waitress about would use. It did a carbon copy, and I was sitting out there writing my start time down and writing down my parts. And then I'd tear a copy off and go home in the evenings and do QuickBooks, and
you billing that night.
Oh, it was crazy. And then, the phone was ringing a lot. I mean, I started this business hating talking on the phone. And, it was like, for me to pick up the phone and call somebody was like an act of willpower. Like it was not something I enjoyed. And, I can tell you after the first couple of years, you pretty much beat that out of the system, because a lot of times, I'd miss a lot of calls during the day. And so I'd get home and, I remember coming in at, we worked 6 a.m. to 8 at night. And then it was time to like pick up the phone, get the voicemails, work on some invoicing, figure out the next day's schedule. And just the stress of it, plus learning the business. And then we hit, 2010 to 2013 were just record hot, dry years. And so it was like the demand was incredible.
I mean, there was a drought up there, right? I mean, it's so intense heat, working conditions. Basically, the state of Kansas is on fire, and you're the only one that can provide water. Water. Like, I remember my son was born in 2011, the summer of 2011, August. Wife being pregnant, right? And that was the worst summer I remember. And I didn't have to carry a baby. I know it was the summer of hell for me because I worked on a project in Dallas, and it was like 110 straight days of 100-degree weather. And it was a project that was surrounded by 3 sides of tall building. And that was the project I was on. It was a multi-million-dollar project. And I'm like, I hate summer and I hate heat. And to this day, I have PTSD because of that. So you're the same boat. Like, you can remember 2010, 2013 of this severe drought and how much you were in such demand all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, it was good and bad. I mean, it really, the demand, the need was there, and it probably caused people to call Wetlands that, maybe wouldn't have otherwise. And maybe they gave me a second chance because their yard had to have it, and I feel like too, I just kind of, my philosophy from early on was, think like a customer, do everything I can. I can't leave this customer in a position where their sprinkler system doesn't work and their lawn's burning up. And I really think that that's kind of why people kept calling is just, the willingness to put in the time, figure it out. Cause there was a lot of that where I'm like, it probably took me twice as long as it should have, just because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But we figured it out. And, I'm very proud to say that, 13 years later, we've got a lot of the same clients that were there for their, to start with. And 100, I mean, it was 100 days, over 100. And it's like a sprinkler system is always designed to be supplemental. It really can't replace rainfall. And yet those first few years, it was like, hey,
a learning.
My lawn gets no water when your system isn't running for me.
Yeah. And you had to learn that. Just that tagline alone, that this irrigation is just supplemental. It took years for you to really learn that.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, the first few years, I was like, if I'm not watering this, it doesn't work. And I really struggled with that feeling of, I'm letting them down if this system isn't, keeping their lawn lush and green like it does if it gets rain. And now I've learned that, it's supplemental. It's not designed to replace rainfall. And that helps in the stressful drought times. Yeah.
So fast forward 14 to 17, 14, 15, 16, 17, you're hammering down. There's a great picture of you that you when you hosted of you and your team members, of one guy literally.
That was me. Those are my feet sticking out of that.
Those are your feet?
Those are my feet. And I got two guys hanging on because it was so deep. It was like you had to hang vertically in there to get to that point where we were going to connect the sprinkler system. So
next to that picture is a picture of Red Bull. So between Red Bull and just working on a dairy farm and putting out, you become the water guru to put out the drought. You had a business, and that's all you really needed.
Yeah, I mean, those were the good old boy years. It's kind of the way I look at them. I mean, it was a bunch of, all of us in that picture were farm kids, and they were, buddies, cousins, from the community. But I've got a real short story that I think is so part of who we are too, that happened in 2013. And that was a year I got engaged to my wife. Yeah. And we got engaged in March, and she was a school teacher. And so she's like, well, the wedding has to be in the summer, right? It has to, August. And, at that point, I'm not saying no to anything. So I'm like, August. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way I had a couple employees by that time, but it was, nothing happened when I wasn't there. Right. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to leave for 3 weeks in the middle of August? And, just back to my old plan of, like, I prayed. I prayed hard that, hey, I don't know how this is going to work out, but somehow we have to, I'm going to be gone for 2 to 3 weeks in August. And, I've got a team and I've got clients, and I don't know how this is going to work. And, never really kind of figured anything up. I had a cousin that was like, I'll take the phone while you're gone, and try to kind of keep track of things. And so I leave, head to Mississippi early August, and what do you know? We have 25 inches of rain that month. Like, if you go back and look at the news articles during that period, August 2013, look up the Hutch News, and it's just headline after headline of record flooding. And I don't think the phone hardly rang while I was gone. I mean, the Wetlands was not in need that month. And just a, very clear answered prayer on my part. I kind of apologized since then for praying so hard, but
pray for rain actually worked.
Yeah, that was crazy. But then, kind of moving on from there, 2014 through 2017, we're just crazy busy. I had a job. I know you said a business, but I mean, it was definitely where I was out there every day working with the team, doing the estimates after hours, doing the billing after hours, all that kind of thing. And so it was stressful. It was tough. I mean, it was good times, just good. There's a lot of good memories and a lot of hard work happened. And I feel like it's probably the years where a lot of that reputation got built of who we are. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily want to go through that again.
No. We don't. I think it's close in the back of your head, but it will never be left. Right.
That's right.
You might have a few battle wounds still currently from that. I get it. I have a battle room for 2011 too. I don't like the heat anymore. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so yeah, so fast forward, 20, you start to grow. I mean, revenue's increasing. Then you've got a few more people on board, and you're like, oh man, now what do I do, right? I think at some point start getting into you got your lawn care, application going, which is the whole turf side. So,
Right.
Now you've got a technician or two, and now by 2020, you start getting into the Christmas decor line. I'm like, whoo, a whole different dynamic. Tell me about that.
So 2018 is when we added the turf care, and it was kind of a natural fit. A lot of people were asking us, especially with the new irrigation systems to put in lawns and those kind of things. And I had a brother-in-law that was wanting to join the business, and we just felt like, well, hey, he could kind of start the turf division. So we started that in 2018, just cold quoted every client in Wetlands. And I think that first year, I mean, we basically had a full schedule for the turf for the applications. And that was 2018. We were probably 6-8 team members by that point. And then 2020 is when we got into the holiday lighting. That was the year, I think September 2020, we signed the papers on the holiday lighting, and, advertising hit the week that I went to training, and, we did like 50 grand in holiday lighting a month later. So that was kind of another dive in, learn on the fly situation that worked out. We had a great partner in that, and they helped a lot with that. So, and that was also, I think 2019 was the year that I kind of hit a wall and I kind of burned out, and I said, this sucks. I'm working so hard, and there's just not enough of me to go around. And I started, thinking that, there's got to be more to it. And I think somewhere right in there, I read the E-Myth. I feel like that's the number one place to start with a business book. It's just foundational. And, his story is you need to look at your business as a product, not the work you do. And I pretty much right there, I started looking for a coach. I was like, I got to find somebody that knows. I don't have a clue. I'm a farm boy. I didn't go to college. I really don't know how to run a business. And so I found a coach, and really 2019, 2020 was just huge years of growth for me. I mean, in being a business owner. So I a lot of times tell people that, I didn't become a business owner till probably 2019 or 2020. Up till then, I was an operator. I was a technician. I just came to work, did the work, did everything. But there was, without me, nothing really happened. And so that was kind of a big shift. I pulled back from the field. I had an employee that had been with me 8 or 9 years, and he could kind of run the installation side of things. And we had some service technicians that kind of knew enough to go do service work. And I really actually pulled back and spent probably about a year really in the office and just working on, the office side, the systems. And in 2020, we hired our first administrative person to answer the phones and help in the office with billing and that kind of thing. And then I kind of moved more into, I'm trying to remember, 2021. I mean, I would have still been pretty hands-on, more of just like an operations manager, kind of still doing all the estimating, kind of reviewing, invoicing, and any invoicing that wasn't just cookie cutter, I was doing, on the top of that. So, and that was kind of brought us to 2020. And at that point, we were still operating everything out of a little 40 by 60 shop at my house. And I had rented an office space here in a small town in Galva, and that was working, but it was just really cumbersome, just having the two separate locations where there was just a lot of miscommunication, a lot of efficiency being lost. And so we started kind of looking, and some ground opened up here. I got 4 acres here just locally in the town of Galva, and bought that in 2020, and then started getting quotes on a new building. So that happened kind of in 2020. We got quotes. In 2021, the construction happened, and those years, obviously the quotes were much lower than what construction
You should have
costs
started
were.
it earlier, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. And even now it looks like a good deal. So
Yeah, even
it's
now
just
looks
crazy.
like a good deal.
Yeah,
I mean, your facility
always get started.
You hosted last month your peer group members, and listen, it's a new facility, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I like about it is the simplicity of it. Olin, it's just a square building. It's a rectangle. It's got 4 walls and a roof, but what it does is it's got an office space, it's got shop space, and it's inviting for a team to work out of, right? I like the simplicity of it. It's usable. It's got big doors. Tell me how that facility's worked out for you guys so far.
It's worked out really good. I mean, of course, we love it. I feel like it has given us a lot more credibility even. I feel like it's attracting better people. And these are intangibles in a way. I think there's more to attracting better people than having a great building, obviously.
Yeah.
But people want to come to work at some place that looks successful. And I think that's important as well. And then just the efficiency of having everything in one location, receipts and things can get directly brought to the office. The office manager is in the huddle in the morning, so, gets the latest fresh intel from the technicians. There's just been a lot of upsides to it. Yeah,
I agree with you. It's been great. So tell me about this peer group you're in, Olin. It was something that came across you. I'm not sure how you're feeling about it, but I think you had a previous coach before. And listen, you're a fan of reading books and learning as much information you can from books and mentors and coaches. Why join a peer group? And then tell me why. And then tell me what's been the latest for you to be around 10 other business owners and kind of share the ups and downs of a landscape owner.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of the reason for joining, like you said, I did have a coach and she was just a general business coach, right? She had clients in every type of industry. And, she could really coach me on business fundamentals, which was what I needed probably the most right then. But then as I grew a little bit and we got some of those fundamentals under our belts a little bit, then I started wanting, more industry specific coaching. I wanted to affiliate with other companies that were in my, in the green industry that I could kind of see what they were doing and learn from. And that's kind of where the peer group I felt like had the most to offer is the other business owners that had to make payroll. They had to, they had the same struggles that I did. And some of them, I really am in a sweet group. I mean, I've got those peers in the group that are, bigger than I am. And I learn a lot from the challenges that they've faced and overcame. And, there's a couple smaller that I hope to be able to help and coach along as well. So yeah, I think just that part of the observation. I mean, coaching is one thing of being told and, helped through a lot of different things. But when you can go see these things in practice with a site visit, that's just kind of a totally different experience. And I probably really was the kicker is I went to grow in New Orleans and, I had these dreams kind of what I wanted this business to be. And it was nowhere close. And a lot of times I felt like that probably wasn't realistic.
Yeah.
And I went to grow and I went to Mullen and I saw the rollout and I saw, how clean, how happy everybody was. I'm like, hey, it totally,
it
changed
your
my
mind,
perspective on like, this is very possible. This kind of this feeling that you've had that you're not at your potential here and that there's more to it than just going out there and sweating and working, and you can actually build a company like this. I mean, that to me was a huge thing. And just until you see that and witness it, it is just kind of a dream. And now it's like, hey, this is real. We can do it.
Yeah, it's amazing to go around the country at your peers or the grow events every year and just see what else is out there. I feel like it's a motivational boost. It's I can do this because someone else has done it.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're not perfect, but you come back from your trip and go, oh my gosh, you're ready to run through a brick wall. And you got so much on your mind. You might even overload the team when you come back and go, oh boy, Olin went on a trip again. Here we go. We've got a list of things, new things to do. But that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? That's everyone's sharing the same ulcer, and that's what's great about it. Olin, so next steps for you. I mean, here we go, digging trenches, literally in trenches, from dairy farm to trenches to owner operator to now hiring the first few people to turf care to Christmas decor. You got a team, you got a facility. Now I would even argue this is the hard part, just as much as what it was before, but it's a totally different dynamic. The hard part what you were doing now is owner operator. Now you got to be a coach and a mentor and a teacher and a cheerleader. Tell me the dynamics that you've probably had to learn the hard way of like, okay, now I have to manage a team.
Well, I wish I could say I had learned it already. I'm still very much learning that because I'm kind of a impatient. Yeah. Like, let's get this thing done. Let's fix it. What are you waiting on? And you have to lay a lot of that down when it comes to managing others and coaching and leading and getting them to buy into the company and the mission and the vision and get them to want to do the things that you need them to do. And it's been a real challenge because that temptation of like, I'll just go do it myself. I have given into that one far too many times.
Yes. Yep.
And it's not, that undermines a team. It does not help. And so just really slowing down a little bit and learning to communicate. That's probably been a tough one for me. I'm probably a chronic overthinker, and there's a lot going on in my head, but I'm really not saying a lot. And just like explaining, like now when I go out with the team, it's like I explain everything I do. Here's why I'm doing this. Here's why I do it this specific way. Just coaching them and training them to, do things the Wetlands way is probably the biggest focus. I mean, this spring, this year alone is, I would say my number one priority has been training. It's just, we're growing. We've got a lot of opportunity to expand to some other markets, and it's just now to have the technicians that can carry our name out there and do good work. And that's probably that's the biggest challenge I would say right now.
Yeah. It's common for business owners, right? I think we're, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we just want to get in and get it done. Right. And so you're having to find that sweet spot of motivating your staff and also knowing what their strengths are. Not everyone is up and at them like Olin is, right? Not everyone's, some are more strategic, some are more, the doers, some want to learn more and understand the real meaning behind it. And you have to find out how that is with your entire team and navigate that. That's great. Olin, one of the things that stood out to me is you're a very humble guy. And when you post your core values in your shop, they're just in your face. And I think it shows a lot. Let me read some of these off to you. Passion is one of them. And I think it comes a lot from you. Gracious, respect, think like a customer, honesty, and personal responsibility. That explains you and your team. What does it mean to have those specific core values in your business?
Well, it just gives you a foundation, something that you can talk about and that you can use in hiring and interviewing. You can,
Yeah.
you can give examples and you can ask for, what does this mean to you? I mean, you find out what kind of resonates. I mean, obviously, I've never interviewed someone yet that said, well, I don't believe in those core values, but you can typically find, have some questions, have them give some examples of what that core value means to them. And it just gives you a lot of foundation, I feel like, in order to, hire the people that fit the culture. And that's, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, I love, you mentioned it earlier, think like a customer. Oftentimes we just sort of complain about a customer, right? But if we
Yeah.
put ourselves in their shoes, I think it's a game changer at the end of the day. And I love that core value by you guys.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, we have another every morning we have this code. It's called the trust code. And one of the parts of it is, we seek to understand our clients' needs and provide solutions. And one of the things that's so frustrating to me, or fascinating is better say, is when a technician goes to a client, or my sales guy goes there and they misunderstand the client. The client wants a simple sprinkler head moved, and they come up with this big elaborate design of, oh, we got to do all this. And I'm like, did you really think like that customer? Did you really put yourself in their shoes and try to understand what they wanted? We just had I was training a new technician a week or two ago, and he has this work order. It says, move all these heads, check through the system. And he goes out there and puts out 50 flags of all these little things that need done. And I'm like, hold on a second. Let's talk to the homeowner and see what she's really after. And she's just like, oh, I'm not really that particular. I just got these couple of heads that are kind of doubled up over here. And if you could just take a couple of those out, that's all I really need. And I get turned what looked like a 5-hour job into about 30 minutes, and
Yeah.
she's happy and we're happy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's where that comes from, is you have to seek to understand, what does this client really want? If you have questions, ask them. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing more frustrating than taking a simple job and just because you weren't willing to, talk to them or put yourself in their shoes, you complicate it. And now,
Yeah.
you spent way more time and you could have been doing other things, and they're not really even, they're no happier. They may be less happy because now they probably paid 2 or 3 times as much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great understanding. I think we overcomplicate things as most businesses do, understanding what the client needs. Like, listen, just come do what I asked to do and get it done, and we're on your way. And that level of service, she's going to call you back for the next thing. But could you provide something else to the client after the problem was resolved? Yeah, absolutely. But get that resolved first, and then maybe go, all right, we could also do this and this and this at some point. But I love
Yeah,
that approach.
it just frees up your time. I mean, like that one in
Yeah.
particular, we had the opportunity then to, we checked through the whole system. We upsold a couple of little things, and it's just important to have that inquisitive. I want to add that probably a new core value coming is,
All right, here we go.
be curious.
Let's go.
Yeah. So
I love
anyway,
it. That's great. Olin, so you recommended a book, E-Myth. What's another? I know you're sitting in front of your bookcase because I know where it's located. What's another one you recommend for our audience?
well, I have a lot of favorite books, and a lot of them just kind of depend on what stage you are in business, because as you know, you change and you grow a lot. E-Myth, again, that's like the entry level. Like,
Yeah, I love it.
if you want to learn anything about business, start with the E-Myth. Another one of my favorites is called The Road Less Stupid. And the author slips my mind right now, but just a super common sense book on some little things you can do that help you take the road less stupid. Because we get going along and we think our ideas are great. And he just really, teaches you how to take time and really look at the opposite sides of your choices and decisions. And I wish I could say that I'd done better at that, but it's still something I'm learning. And the book that I'm reading currently, aside from my peer group reading, is called Thou Shalt Prosper. And
Okay.
it's by a Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and it's a very insightful book on overcoming some of the guilt that I think some business owners might feel, even from being prosperous and making money, to just a lot of good business philosophy. And
Great.
that's my current read. I'm actually on my second time through it. I do Audible, so a lot of
Yeah.
times I'll hit them twice just because you miss stuff.
You get a lot of information out on the second time, the stuff that you missed or
Yeah, I
wasn't paying
mean,
attention or
just a ton of stuff that like, oh, I don't
yeah.
remember hearing that, and yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah. So Olin, as we wrap up here, I always take a lot of good notes, and I always like to leave a few nuggets for people listening. This is the best part of it. And as I'm reading these off, man, if there's anything else, one more to add, then jump in. But one of the things that resonates me the most, several of them are, is think like a customer. And oftentimes, like I said earlier, we complain about a customer all the day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a policy in your office to never complain about a customer, because if you complain them, then we have no work. I think you've built a great foundation being in the irrigation business, because time is of the essence, right? Nothing's more critically masked than no water on a lawn or no water on the landscape. So you have to be very on your game, so to speak, to perform a product under a given amount of pressure. Because listen, they're not calling you because everything's groovy. They're calling you because they can't get water going, right? And so that's be able to, with that mindset, as being able to build your business to what you are today, which is great. One of the other things is understanding the client, provide a solution. That hits me pretty hard. It gets a little confusing with most people, but understanding what their needs are, provide a solution, and go on their merry way. 9 times out of 10, they're going to call Olin back for more business, right? What else do you have to add for our audience? Anything else?
Well, I'm happy to put a plug in for you guys. I would not be where I'm at without my first business coach, without the peer group, the site visits. If you're feeling burned out, you're feeling like you're not at your potential and you're not doing what you could be, nothing will open your eyes more than go to the Grow conference, go do a site visit of a company that you're probably not there. It's going to take you many years to get there. It took them a lot of years to get there, but it's just a great way to really flesh out a dream. And probably the last thing I would say is just that, and this is for me 100%, is that your business cannot grow any faster than you do. And you have to constantly be learning and expanding your mindset and your way of thinking, because the business requires different things of you at every different stage. And as we've talked, I'm in a stage now where the easy thing is for me to go out and change a sprinkler head. It's the hard part is saying no. I've got team members that can do that, and even if it's only 75%, 70% as good as you would do it, I mean, that's still better than you going and doing it. And
Totally.
that's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think owners are always sort of going to jump in and save the day at the end of the day, and that's what we can't do. got to coach our team, mentor our team in order to handle those circumstances. Awesome stuff. You're always a good student in the peer groups. You're always wanting to learn. Always see you at the conferences, especially Grow every year. Even our team loves talking to you just because you're just a down to earth guy and wants to get better. And so it's great to have you on our show and I definitely enjoyed the state of Kansas to the extreme. It was, I took some beautiful sunset pictures, and I haven't seen anything like that in a really long time. So I got a little love for you in Kansas.
Yeah, I really, it was fun. The weather cooperated. We had beautiful weather, and I felt like a lot of people in my peer group came away with a little different, maybe a little more respect for Kansas than I got before. It is what it is, but it's home for me, and it's a good place to be for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Everybody was super friendly. The food was amazing. Meeting your wife was awesome. She probably gets to understand why you're out of town a few times a year, and she probably is totally okay with that now that we've all met each other.
Yeah, it's getting better. So
yeah. Thank you, Olin. It's been a pleasure, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. Thanks for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Ready to take the next step? Download our free Profitability Scorecard to quickly create your own baseline financial assessment and uncover the fastest ways to improve your business. Just go to mcfarlandstanford.com/scorecard to get yours today. To learn more about McFarland Stanford, our best-in-class peer groups, and other services, go to our website at mcfarlandstanford.com, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time on The Roots of Success.